Volume 2 Chapter 121, The Landing of the Black Death. What an amazing achievement! And yet, it has not been a year yet. Empress Elizabeth II. She raised a voice of admiration after receiving the report of the annual statistical report on the birth rate and mortality rate of the imperial city from her aides at the seat in the large conference hall inside the court. The Empress was very content. It is because the mortality rate of the imperial city this year has decreased nearly 20% compared to last year. The mortality statistical number of deaths in each regional city has the same standard as last year as usual, but only the imperial city has suddenly changed this number. Only in the imperial city. Is this not the result of the different World Pharmacy and the Dispensing Pharmaceutical Guild that cooperating their business? Is this not clear even if you do not see it with a favorable eye? Elizabeth claimed. It means that since pharmacist Falma had become a royal court apothecary, starting from the invention of the microscope, he did all of this within a year. The foundation of the different World Pharmacy General Head Office, and numerous invention of new medicine. Regulation on human body use of products containing toxic substances such as mercury and lead. Opening of the Medicated Cosmetic Specialty Store, MEDIQUE, an oral care specialty store, 8020. Establishment of the Dispensing Pharmacy Guild, and the sales of new drugs at Guild franchise stores. Opening public health lecture. On top of that, he visited the free dispensary operated by the Empire, prescribed medicine for patients, and also instructed doctors about treatment. Taking account those, each one of them is a merit of good service. And to be able to do all of that for a mere 1 year, it is not of human skill. And also, did the public health lecture and invention of the microscope revealed the idea of microorganisms prove to be successful, the people began to pursue cleanliness. And the number of epidemics that had occurred in the imperial city is now considerably low. They have been worried about epidemic cold every year, but this year, this also became limited to a small scale. I cannot speak lightly, but I also agree. An elder subject who was conservative and hard to please, Secretary of National Affairs, Sir Philip, also finally recognized Falma's achievements. You sirs also think like that. It is very natural, Your Highness. If the success in the imperial city spread through the regional cities, the prosperity of the empire would be solid. Even Secretary of the Interior Sir Yuan nodded to the Empress's question. Yuan is a minister that was reluctant to give a pharmacy that a child shopkeeper would run the imperial sanction of the empire. No, who has been promoted to a semi-knight from the Empress's page, was relieved that Falma's accomplishments, which were being strongly reproached to the Empress by her aides, were finally recognized in public. If that is so, I need to give rewards once again. The Empress started to leave aside the meeting, and ponder in her head. Is granting Falma a noble rank too early, Berenice? Mr. Falma has yet to be an adult. So under the Empire's laws, granting ranks to minors are not permitted. Berenice, the beautiful female Minister of Justice who have been just inaugurated this year, dissuades the Empress in a hurry. With the intention, we will be troubled if the Empire's laws are changed so easily. By the way, Berenice favors using MEDIQUE's medicated soap. It is still really too early, It looks like the Empress reflected that it was too rash. The reputation from the citizen of the imperial city is also excellent. Secretary of National Affairs Philip, he hears its popularity to the mass. Patients treated by the different World Pharmacy, other than those seriously ill and were on the verge of death, there are almost no deceased. Also, Philip himself has a sickness of gout, and it has become his family pharmacy. In the position of a patient going to take medicine every week, there is no way that he could criticize the main doctor. There is an inhuman thing that possesses the boy apothecary Falma. Elizabeth was gradually gaining the conviction for that. Elizabeth, she has known Falma, who had frequented in the palace following his father Bruno to train since he was 8 years old. However, she could only look at him as if the personality he had at that time itself was a different one. The thing that possesses him should not be made clear. That was Elizabeth's view. There is a guarantee that the out-of-standard divine powers that is hidden within him is not evil. And if the thing that possesses him is a god or a sacred spirit, they would dislike it if their identity was exposed by humans. And just because their identity was found out, it might leave the human world. So there, Elizabeth, she made all preparations so that Falma was able to easily move in the imperial city. And when his will was followed, this quick results also did. Well then, is the preparation for the Saint-Floive market organized? No change over last year. The guild in the imperial city and the merchants, they are busily preparing their goods. Foreign merchants has also started to gather. Minister of Finance Sir Aylman, while adjusting his black-framed glasses, he reported the situation of the preparations to the Empress together with his market inspector subordinations. The Empress, she suddenly remembered and asserted, "Keep in mind to not allow any mess of public morals in the imperial city. Additionally, the ones who would cause problems, beat them out of the imperial city regardless of their status. We will strictly regulate them. There is one thing that bothers me. Aylman has seen through the foreboding that did not exist last year beforehand. Looking at the peddler registry that we have, it seems that there are many foreign medicinal wholesale dealers and advanced apothecaries this year. Is it not for purchasing the medicinal goods of the different world pharmacy and the pharmacies affiliated with them? It could be seen that their aim is to bring back the medicinal goods to their country, and sell them at a high price to royalty and titled nobility. However, the different world pharmacy where Falma is the shopkeeper is a prescriptive pharmacy, so he would look at the patients, then prescribe medicine. If the patient is not present, he would not treat them, and would not sell. On the other hand, on the dispensing pharmaceutical guild, even though they are not selling medicine that is not as high as the different world pharmacies' head store, the ones that they handle are drugs that have good effects, so the merchants probably aim to buy those in return. While the market is opened, the medicine from the different world pharmacies should be targeted by apothecaries coming from other countries. That pharmacy is our empire's treasure and wealth. Pharmacist Falma and the ones affiliated with him, we shall not let them go. Send the best guards to Falma as an individual, and secure each and every one of the pharmacy's staff. The Empress's aim is to bring Falma on her side. Let him freely create medicinal goods, and maintain the empire's external competitiveness and national interest. The different world pharmacy, and the medicinal products of the related pharmacies, they shall bring the empire enormous wealth. As you command. The aides completely agreed to the Empress. The Black Plague might come mixed within the cargo of the Saint-Floive market. At that time, Falma ran into the Saint-Floive University of Medicine's president's room, and told his father about the looming threat of a terrible plague. His father is busy with his administrative work and research as the president, and has not returned to their mansion. Umu, the country of Nedale's colony island, was eradicated because of a mysterious plague. It has also reached my ears. The origin of the disease has yet to be found even in Norbots. You think that it is the Black Plague. The pest, the Black Plague it is called in this world, it is an epidemic that lastly appeared 210 years ago. Bruno has deciphered past literature, and recognizes the fear of the Black Plague. It is said there were dark violet-colored stigmas that would remain on the patient's skin. And that which was called as the Black Plague had tremendous infectivity. And it was only when several cities including the patients were burned to destruction using flame divine arts that it was settled. I am thinking that it is the Black Plague. The Black Plague is deep-rooted. It is written in literature that it would seem that it had settled, but would relapse many times. Some of the cargo that was traded from the plagued island, it might have entered the imperial capital through the land. The merchant's ship that would sell directly from that colony should arrive at the port of Marseille. It would be post-fact report. But I will instruct to set up a quarantine station in the port of Marseille. A good decision. Bruno assessed Falma's measures. If the Black Plague enters the imperial capital, it would be the end of the imperial capital. Bruno said, medicine that heals the Black Plague does not exist, and the only thing the doctor and apothecaries was only to count the number of deaths. If the Black Plague occurs in the densely populated imperial capital, the reality of the downfall of the empire will increase. The empire's calamity would be needed to be scorched by the flames of divine arts. After all, we do not have a way to fight against the Black Plague. No, we can fight. Falma answered immediately. Is that true? That is an incurable deadly disease that no one knows its true nature. It looks like Bruno was overwhelmed by Falma's words. We can fight. Just like the time with the White Plague. I have a weapon. The effective drug for the plague is an antibiotic antibacterial drug. There are many drugs that was developed on Earth, and there are even many choices. However, in this situation where the Marseille pharmaceutical factory has yet been completed, in the level of this world's laboratory, there was no drug that can be mass synthesized that can be prepared within a few days. Since antibiotics are things that can be extracted from microorganisms like fungi or bacteria, as long as this world's culture technique are prepared, any country would be able to handle it. But the preparation time this time is only several days. They could only rely on Falma's substance creation ability. How are we going to fight? Bruno couldn't think of how at all. This world's scholars does not even know what the Black Plague uses as an intermediary to spread. The specific medicine has already been prepared. Falma prepared synthetic antimicrobials. The one he chose was sparfloxacin SPFX. It is a drug that prevents the bacterial growth by preventing the synthesis of pestis DNA. It wasn't an injection, and could be taken orally, so that made it convenient. The risk of using an injection is high, so Falma did not want to use it before the technical foundation is in place. Taking this drug once a day is enough. There would also be cases where side effects would occur. But that would be photosensitivity, and as long as they would not be exposed to sunlight, and as long as the pharmacist controls the medication, it is not something very serious. With this, he would be able to leave the medicine guidance to the pharmacists of the Dispensing Pharmacy Guild who are study every day. Falma created this sparfloxacin using substance creation beforehand. Because its structure is complicated, it made him use a lot of concentration, and while getting exhausted, even so, he still prepared the amount that 1,000 patients would completely heal. Immediately, he conducted a prescription workshop for the new drug, and instructed the pharmacists on how to look at the patients and how to prescribe. Although he could not do it with all of the pharmacists. The pharmacists that had just joined the guild, and has immature knowledge and skill, were forbidden to handle it. In case that the plague would appear, he strictly ordered to offer the new drug sparfloxacin for free. For strong infectious diseases like the pest, it is important to not mind the value of the medicine and use it without hesitation. Right now, he is currently leaving it to them, the division and distribution of the medicine to the related pharmacies. Even if the pest does not occur and it was not needed for this time, it is a drug that can be used for other epidemics, so the drug would not be wasted. The pharmacists of the Dispensing Pharmacy Guild were filled with trepidation, hearing that the Black Plague that was once a nightmare would reoccur. We have prepared the cure in the pharmacy stores in the imperial capital. Not letting anyone be infected, that is our first fight. Falma and Bruno summarized the preventive measures and advised it to the Empress. Restrict the St. Louis imperial capital's castle gates, and limit the merchant caravans entering the imperial capital through land to several places. Establish a quarantine station equipped with a microscope microorganism inspection testing department in the castle gate. Thorough enforcement of cleanliness by distributing water that is created by water divine arts users to the citizen of the imperial capital, and let them use that for washing hands and showering. Exterminate rats and fleas in each household and stores. It was probably because Falma and the Empress have trust relationship from every day. The Empress promptly issued a decree, just like, let's do it now. The hygienic environment of the imperial capital that was gradually being improved. Due to public health lecture of the different world pharmacy where Ellen was the instructor that made citizens enlightened, it was improved further at the last minute. The extermination of rats was done, even cleaning out the underground waterway. The kids and cats were catching rats very vigorously. The quarantine station, it was done by rotation of pharmacists of the dispensing pharmacy guild that has been taking classes every day. They are temporarily hired by the Empire, and using the simple inspection kit and microscope that Falma prepared, they were trained on how to discover pestis. There are already 19 stores participating to the Dispensing Pharmacy Guild. They would inspect the cargo that peddlers have, and would continue to prevent the invasion of pathogen in the imperial capital. The guildmaster Pierre leads and supervised them, helping the inspection. The temple, who had heard the situation from Falma, head priest Solomon of the diocese in the imperial capital, gathered when divine arts user who is excellent in purification techniques from Guardian T. Impulse in various places, and thoroughly purified the imperial capital. And Falma and Ellen, they were in an intensive watch in Marseille region. Only the port of Marseille would have vessels from the country of Nedale entering, but many ships with cargo that came from all over the world would gather to make it in time to Saint-Floive market. In that port of Marseille, the discontent of the ship owner and crews were exploding. It is because Falma kept all vessels that were about to enter the port of Marseille stop on the sea, and quarantined them without letting them approach the pier. It is the sea quarantine that is common sense in Earth. Falma rides in a boat to the large sailing ship that comes from various countries and places anchored at sea. He examined all of the crews if they were infected by the pest using his diagnostic eye. An Ellen and a first-class apothecary who are wearing clothes with an antibacterial agent. And his father's subordinate that is a flame techniques user wearing a protective clothing carried out microorganism tests on the cargo. And with the ships registered as the country of Nedales, it was detected that about 2% of the ships were infected by pestis. There were even infected crew, and people who had died. Falma immediately sent a carrier pigeon to the imperial capital, and informed Bruno this message. Strengthen the quarantine. When the pestis was found, the flame techniques user incinerated it, and Falma annihilated the pestis relying on the medicine god's staff's divine powers. The carriers were isolated, and were given an antibacterial drug. I cannot believe this. To think that the Black Plague would really resurrect. Ellen couldn't help herself shudder that if they did not have Falma's antibacterial drug, the port of Marseille would have become a port of death a long time ago. And that they were able to stop it in the waters like barely crossing a tightrope. However, despite their struggles, the sailors was not even able to understand what the quarantine was for. The ships that have anchored for even 2 days, and the ones who were impatient to unload, were showering jeers and complaints to Falma and the rest. Hurry up and let us unload. There wasn't a quarantine until last year, right? The Lord of Marseille is crazy this year. I need to unload by today. I had arranged a carriage. Let us go first. It's fruits. Our cargo will rot. Why the heck is a kid with the apothecaries who quarantine? What the heck is going on in the Saint-Floive Empire? Wait for your damn turn. Falma and the rest had quarantined with almost no rest. But it would be the best if they were able to quarantine 20 ships, and even so, the vessels aiming for the Saint-Floive market comes one next to the other. The ships that want to enter the port of Marseille had gone up, and the discontent of the sailors had now become something uncontrollable. How noisy you are, should I make you shut up for a bit? Ellen readied her staff. And when she was about to show the selfish and stubborn ships the water divine arts they needed, cannon shells bombarded the sea, raising a large water column. Ellen has yet to shoot her divine art. Ellen fixed her glasses. Falma also covered his eyes to the loud sound. Stop fussing around. If you want to enter the Empire's port, follow the Empire's rules. A loud threat. Looks gathered to the direction of the bombardment. And then, 4 beautiful large sailing ships with a flag with the emblem of the Empire and the letters SIO in their flagship, appeared with an air of composure. There was a sniper with his muzzle aiming from the mast, and the porthole is open. From the bow of the flagship where tens of portholes were loaded. The Saint-Louis Empire Chartered East Indian Company (SIO) Combined Fleet Admiral Jean Allen Gabin was looking down with crossed arms. A regular customer at the Different World Pharmacy, a lover of the sailor's candy, Old Man Jean. He is the admiral of the East Indian Company that would even make crying kids shut up. When he heard that the child store owner of the Different World Pharmacy, Falma, was doing his best against the sea roughnecks for the sea quarantine of Saint-Flouv's port, he brought a battleship. "Listen, you bastards, clean your dirty darn ears and listen." Old Man Jean's voice echoed very well on the top of the sea. Falma, who was looking at him from a boat, looked at Old Man Jean, who was wearing admiral clothes, differently. It's because the regular customer who he knew, usually wearing one tattered shirt and who was kind and friendly, had changed into a devilish admiral. The ones who want their loads thrown to the sea, name yourselves, damn it. Fire. The portholes blew fire again, and water columns raised. It's just exactly to the ship carrying tea that Falma was about to quarantine. If this continues, it would be like the Boston Tea Party, or you could say Marseille Tea Party. There were no longer ships who shows rebellious attitude to the large battleship's admiral. Just like that, with the Imperial fleet glaring at them, the small and medium-sized ships from various countries tamely received the quarantine. Jean-san, no, Admiral Jean. Thank you for helping. In a timely moment to take a break, Falma got on Admiral Jean's ship, and said his thanks. Well, don't worry, it's nothing at all. Rather than that, how long will the pharmacy be closed? I'm a little lonely. It looks like Admiral Jean wants to buy the sailor's candy not on the cooperating stores but on the Different World Pharmacy. Thanks to your place's candy, the sailors that scurvy had decreased. Next time, I'm thinking of buying candies on bulk. For the crew of the ship that is going in a long voyage. Admiral Jean, who said that with a great smile, doesn't seem like he was just buying candies as a hobby. He gives them to some sailors who would go on a long voyage, and tests their preventive effect. I will be waiting for your order. Can you please make that after the Saint-Louis market ends? Falma added. When the sea quarantine of the ships that are entering the port of Marseille had passed its peak. Falma, I have reports that there are numerous villagers of the Estherk village that have a high fever. There was a report that came to Marseille Lord Deputy Adam in the Lord's manor. Taking notice that entering from the port of Marseille would be slow, Nedale ships entered, and unloaded their cargo on ports of small fishing villages. At first, every villager thought that it was only a regular high fever, but deaths started to occur, and the epidemic started at once. It has been 2 days since the first death, and the village chief came to report to Adam. Were they pricked by the flea of the rats that hid within the cargo? The infection route was now impossible to trace. We knew it, but we couldn't prevent it. Falma felt very frustrated. Even Ellen, who had supported him with all that she had, couldn't find words to say to Falma, who was exhausted. I'll go immediately. You're going? To a village infected by Black Plague. You might also die after being infected, you know. Ellen, she raised a surprised voice to Falma, who was going to enter the village with no hesitation. Falma answered silently. I will. I probably won't get infected. And even if I did, I could cure myself. I will also go. I only need to use the medicine just as Falma-kun said, right? In this great calamity, as an apothecary, I do not want to turn my back and run away. Ellen thought of that. The only one who could tell the Black Plague is only Falma. That is why it should be him who is going to need to quarantine. Ellen should continue the quarantine here. Please protect the entrance of the sea. It would take time, but I will find it if I would inspect step by step. I'm counting on you. After Falma had left those words, he placed his divine powers on the medicine god's staff and flew to the sky. Falma-kun. Don't. Ellen's voice calling out to him, echoed through the blue skies of Marseille. And thus the plague has landed on the continent. The first epidemic was on a fishing village in the Marseille region with a population of 524 people. Apothecary Falma de Medicis went to the Estherk village.